Snow fell quietly over the small town of Bozeman, Montana. Christmas lights glowed on warm homes. Stores played familiar carols. Families gathered around fireplaces, sharing meals and laughter. But in the parking lot of a closed grocery store, Mark Reynolds sat alone inside his old pickup truck. The engine was off to save gas. The heater barely worked. The windows were foggy from his breath. The only Christmas decoration he had was a cracked photo taped to the dashboard. It showed his daughter smiling on Christmas morning many years ago, back when life felt steady, back when he believed he would always be okay. Mark was a U.S. Army veteran. He served 2 tours overseas. He learned discipline. He learned sacrifice. He learned how to survive hard places. After the military, he worked construction for nearly 20 years. He woke up early. He worked through pain. He provided for his family. That was his pride. Then came the injury. One wrong fall. One moment that changed everything. The pain never fully left. Medical bills grew month after month. The stress broke the marriage. The silence grew between visits with his daughter. One bad year became another, and slowly, quietly, Mark lost everything, including his place at the Christmas table. On Christmas Eve, Mark stared at the photo on the dashboard. His hands shook as he whispered that he had tried. He really had tried. He hadn't been inside a church in years. Life had made him tired, disappointed. But that night, faith was all he had left. He pulled his jacket tighter around his body. He leaned back in the driver's seat. He prepared to sleep sitting up, listening to the wind push snow against the truck.
Then he heard a knock on the window. His heart jumped. His first thought was fear. He slowly opened his eyes. Instead of danger, he saw a police officer standing in the snow. Calm, respectful. The officer asked if he was okay. Mark nodded and said he was just resting. The officer glanced at the dashboard, at the photo, then back at Mark. He wished him a Merry Christmas. Then he spoke gently about a church down the road serving dinner that night. No paperwork, no questions asked. Mark hesitated. Pride had helped him survive many hard years, but pride had also kept him alone. After a long moment, he turned the key. The engine started slowly. He followed the patrol car through the snowy streets. The church was simple. Folding tables, plastic chairs, volunteers wearing ugly Christmas sweaters. But the room felt warm. The smell of hot food filled the air. A woman handed Mark a plate. She smiled and looked him in the eyes. She said, "Welcome home." No one asked where he slept. No one asked what he had lost. They just made room at the table. As Mark sat down, a small boy walked toward him. The boy held a paper-wrapped gift. He said it was for Mark. Mark froze. He said he hadn't brought anything. The boy smiled and said that was okay, because it was Christmas. Inside the gift were thick wool socks, warm, new, and a handwritten card. The card said, "Thank you for protecting our country. You matter." Mark felt his throat tighten. Tears filled his eyes. For the first time in many years, he didn't feel invisible. That night, Mark slept on a cot in the church gym. It wasn't a bed, but it was safe, and it was warm. The next morning, sunlight came through the windows. Someone brought him coffee. Another volunteer asked about his service. They listened. Later that day, someone mentioned a job program for veterans. Another offered to help him reconnect with his daughter. Small steps, real steps. Nothing magical happened, no instant miracle, no sudden fortune, but something strong began to grow inside him. Hope. 1 year later, on Christmas Eve, Mark stood outside a small rented house. Snow rested softly on the roof.
A modest tree glowed in the window. Inside, his daughter laughed as they hung ornaments together. Mark smiled quietly, grateful. He paused for a moment, remembering the cold night in the truck, the knock on the window, the warm meal, the simple words that told him he mattered. That Christmas Eve did not save his life, but it changed its direction. Christmas is not about perfect homes or full tables. It's about showing up for someone who is tired, for someone who is hurting, for someone who still believes, just a little. Because sometimes all it takes to change a life is a knock on the window on a cold Christmas night. Christmas isn't about perfect homes or full tables. It's about showing up for someone who is tired, for someone who is hurting, for someone who still believes, just a little. Because sometimes all it takes to change a life is a knock on the window on a cold Christmas night. If this story moved you, like this video, subscribe for more emotional stories, and share it with someone who needs hope this Christmas. No one is beyond a second chance.